Would you join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, I guess in a way, before we really do roll call, we really should swear us all in. So we're going to do it one at a time, right?
Yeah.
So we may as well, us that are going to get sworn in, let's get in the line up front here. Kathy will go from there. Come on, you get me. We can do this. We do it one at a time. Let's see. Lean back. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think we're gonna do each person individually, right? That's not a group swearing.
We've done that and it hasn't worked out that
Hasn't
well.
worked out. Okay.
Alrighty.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
I, Jay McGowan,
I, Jay McGowan,
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
and of the state of Washington,
and of the state of Washington,
that I am legally qualified to assume the office of mayor,
that I'm legally qualified to assume the office of mayor,
city of Cle Elum,
city of Cle Elum.
that I will support the Constitution
I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United
and the
States
state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully, diligently, and impartially
I will faithfully, diligently, and impartially
perform the duties of this office.
perform the duties of this office.
As such duties are prescribed by law,
As such duties are described by law,
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
You are in.
Thank you. Boy, you're making it a lot easier than I did in the police. Yes, you did. He had to repeat whole sentences. Not phrases.
I, Beth Williams,
I, Beth Williams,
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
and the state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
that I am legally qualified to assume the office of council,
that I am legally
qualified,
to assume the office of council,
position 3, city of Cle Elum,
position 3, city of Cle Elum,
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and the state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
diligently, and impartially perform the duties of this office.
perform the duties of this office,
As such duties are prescribed by law,
as such duties are prescribed by law,
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
That is it. I, Rustin Weaver,
I, Rustin Weaver,
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
and the state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
that I am legally qualified to assume the office of council,
that I am legally qualified to assume the office of city council,
position 7,
position 7,
city of Cle Elum,
city of Cle Elum,
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and the state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully, diligently, and impartially
and that I will faithfully, diligently, and impartially
perform the duties of this office.
perform the duties of this office,
As such duties are prescribed by law,
as such duties are prescribed by law,
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
Right.
Well, this is not the kind of thing you do very often.
Do you know this one by heart? No. I, Ken Ratliff,
I, Ken Ratliff,
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
and of the state of Washington,
and of the state of
that I
Washington,
am legally qualified to assume the office
that I am legally qualified to assume the office
of council position 2,
of council, position 2,
city of Cle Elum,
city of Cle Elum,
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United
and the
States
state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully, diligently, and impartially
and that I will faithfully, diligently, and impartially
perform the duties of this office.
perform the duties of this office.
As such duties are prescribed by law,
As such duties are prescribed by law,
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
Very good, thank you. Oh, you have two. I, Matthew Lund,
I, Matthew Lund,
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
do affirm that I am a citizen of the United States of America
and of the state of Washington,
and of the state of Washington,
that I am legally qualified to assume the office
that I affirm that I am legally qualified to assume the
of
office
Council Position 6, City of Cle Elum,
of Council Position 6, City of Cle Elum,
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and laws of the United States
and laws of the United States
and the state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
that I will faithfully, diligently, and impartially
that I will faithfully, diligently, and impartially
perform the duties of this office,
perform the duties of this
as
office,
such duties are prescribed by law,
as such duties are prescribed by law,
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability.
Okay.
And your little one swore in.
That's right.
She has a lot of
She's my
opinions.
proxy.
All right, well, thank you all. We're off to Okay, so now, when we have a chance.
Would you pass these down?
Oh, why do we have to sign those? So, Kathy, would you call roll call?
I sure will.
Yeah.
Mayor McGowan,
Here.
John Guando,
Here.
Beth Williams. Here. Nikki Holtz.
Here.
Stephen Harper,
Present.
Matthew Lund,
Present.
Rusted Weaver,
Here.
Tim Rowlett.
Here.
Okay, everybody's here. Okay, the only thing I want to add to this agenda really is that under announcements, awards, and recognitions, we will hear from the new officers for the fire department. So we'll do that. But otherwise, I'm looking for approval of the meeting agenda.
We approve the meeting agenda as mentioned.
Moved and seconded to approve the meeting agenda as presented. Question on the motion? All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, under announcements, appointments, awards, recognition, we'll have our fire chief tell us who you have for your things and what the process is. I think we...
Honorable Mayor and
Yeah.
City
We don't-
Council,
yeah.
we have passed the new bylaws, so it did change a bit this year, not totally. But under the new process, the executive fire chief remains in office until the mayor or admin removes him. But the chief is a separate position also that could be one of the same. So again, I've remained as fire chief as well as executive fire chief officer this year. So appointing our officers, my first fire chief, first assistant fire chief, I'd like to introduce Nate Henderson, if you'd stand up. So Nate actually resides here in Cle Elum and has been a lifelong resident. I think he moved down to Battleground for a couple of years. Was on the volunteer fire department down in Battleground. He's got lots of relatives and family here in town. In fact, actually, I think my daughter is a cousin.
Yes.
So, yes. So Nate's an IV tech and an EMT for the hospital district. So he works full time for them, along with volunteering with us. So Nate does just a great job for me. He's a hazmat instructor. He's our training officer. He holds several certifications. So he teaches in-house and does a great job. So I thank him. He's got 14 years with the department. So I'd like to welcome him aboard, and he was voted in this year. And we vote each year on chief, first assistant, second assistant, and secretary of treasurer. So the officers that you see tonight are the same remaining officers that were from last year. They got renominated and re-voted back in. So, thank Nate. Casey Orndorff isn't here tonight. He said he was gonna be here, so something must have come up. He actually lives here in Cle Elum. He started with us in 2015. He was our second assistant chief last year. And he's done a great job. I appreciate what he's done for us. And then last, I have our Secretary of Treasurer, so Cole Lowenstein. And Cole, the position of Secretary of Treasurer, he does roll calls, he takes care of all the equipment, logs, trainings, meetings, so a very important role that we have. And he's been with us for 4 years, and he's actually a lieutenant. He has brought a lot of organization skills to the department, so I really appreciate that. And he actually has gone through and reorganized 2 of the offices over there, so I really appreciate that, and he's doing a great job. So just welcome these guys back in, and I look forward to this year being a great and phenomenal new year.
Well, so isn't ordinarily doesn't the council approve the new,
Yeah, so these are recommendations from the fire department
for their new officers?
for the new
this coming
officers. And so I would like to have
year?
them approved by the council.
If you guys feel like.
It'd be nice if we could name them off too on the motion.
Now you're getting tricky.
Now I know, sorry, because I couldn't.
Well, one of them's Nate, and the other's Cole, and the other is
Casey.
Casey. Yeah, first names are fine.
Casey.
Of course, Ed.
I make a motion that we approve Casey, Nate, Cole, and Ed as the new officers for the fire department this coming year.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve the appointment of Ed, Nate, Cole, and Casey as the new officers of our fire department. Questions on the motion? Not, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you guys are in. Thank you very much. We had a good meeting today. Nate sat in on with the police chief and stuff, and we were working with the planner from HLA. Deb Lacombe. And is there too. And what we did is we rated a DOT plan for how we wanted to address accidents that happened in Cle Elum for the last 5 years. And we had 3 sheets of where the bicycles, the pedestrians, and all that sort of thing is. And we spent quite a few hours today doing that, and we appreciate that, a lot of good advice. So, doing that survey, filling it out, saying that we're eligible for funding from DOT for pedestrian and auto and all that traffic, safety. I've sort of taken that thunder from Mike, but he could fill you in more. He was there too. So was Rob. Okay, and then, so let's see. It will take a little bit more time, then we'll get down to business. And what I have here is the council, mayor and council goals or activities for this coming year. So if you have something to pipe in, go ahead.
Real quick, I just thought,
Yes?
we should probably elect a mayor pro tem again.
Oh,
As
how often do you elect pro tem?
Yearly.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years, okay.
Every 2 years.
Then we're good.
So you're still in. How was the last time you got elected?
I don't know, I just want to make sure.
What's the last time?
I just don't remember.
I don't imagine it changed, but I think
Neither.
we should, I think nothing precludes us from making it
Could be
formal.
4 years.
We
And
could do
get in
that.
habit.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
right.
would nominate Ken Ratliff for the position of mayor pro tem.
Well, it makes it official, it's okay.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, to nominate Ken Ratliff for mayor pro tem. Is there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Ken.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And he's much nicer the way he runs a meeting than I am. Okay, so I'll read a few highlights from what the department is doing, a little bit And some of the things that I'm working on, one of them I'll tell you is, they call it the checkerboard dilemma, and it's a process that the Nature Conservancy is doing with trying to create community gardens, a community forest. And the one that really can affect us is that the ground between the Cle Elum Ridge and the Tianway community forest is, we're working on seeing how we can do to make that connection, from Cle Elum to the Tianway. And it's gonna take a while. We've had monthly meetings. I've been going there for, about 6 months now. That's in the process that's going on. Another thing that we're gonna be working on here real soon that we have to support the fire department on is their levy is coming up. And we're just kind of working with the fire department to see what we can do to help. The last levy that we passed, the city passed, they got a new safety truck and a new fire truck. So that's where the money went, those few other things, and so we're gonna try to extend that same levy. That one's pretty first. Another big thing that's going on is that tonight Ben will, if you guys, of course, you may not accept the bid, I don't know, but there's a good chance we're gonna put a storm drain in on First Street, and that means there's gonna be a lot of work with the CETA, which I'm involved with, the Downtown Association, and the business owners to make that, as helpful as possible. That's really a big thing going on right now. And I'm sure, and of course, we're in the supplemental EIS program for the proposal for the Bullfrog Flats. There's lots going on with that, and we'll keep you informed on a regular basis whenever there's something that's, okay, this is for sure, we'll fill you in and let you know what it is. And the other thing about that, I have to remind you again, is that at some point, the council here, you guys, will have the final say about that development agreement, the modification of it. And that is a quasi-judicial thing. So, always keep that in the back of your mind, so that someone can't challenge you and kick you out.
For the benefit of our newer members, let's elaborate just a little bit on this quasi-judicial.
Quasi-judicial, it has to do with conflict of interest. If you have, a business, personal, or some kind of conflict that you can personally benefit from, or that you have some personal, negative feeling about, which has happened.
Or do you pre-adjudicate by discussing the matter?
That's most important.
Pre-adjudicate, so you have to keep open mind about it and see, and then so that when you are asked about the conflict of interest, you're less likely to get challenged from anybody who's concerned, and it has happened. We've had a person who it's only happened once, but it can. So keep that in mind. That's important, the quasi-judicial. So, but with that, let's see, the Public Works, he's working on upgrading the construction standards. He's working on updating the city codes. The water reservoir repair is a big deal. He's working on updating the level of service for water and sewer department. We're working on a GIS of all the utilities we have, and that is well on its way there. Of course, the First Street Storm and Billings, he'll be involved in that. And then, the other thing that I'm looking forward to is those piles of asphalt grindings that are over in the Y will get ground up to a particular size. Mike can elaborate, and he's going to be using that on the alleys. So that'll be a big help there. Rob there from the building and administration, there's new building codes. He's going to be updating the building permit fees. He's working on getting us a new server, and the police department needs technical help with the server also. Our phone system here upgraded, especially also at the police department, needs to be upgraded. And then, of course, we're all working on city policies. And then, let's see, so the treasurer, the big thing that the treasurer is doing that we have to really work on big time is our procurement policy has to be, ironclad, and we've worked on that in the last year. We'll be hearing more about that. She wants to complete the certified public finance administration certification that she's got, policy and code training for all the staff, and she would like to implement, and we're working on this, electronic timesheet program, and we'll see how that will go. And then change the payroll thing from to a mid-month draw, instead of, and then doing the payroll once a month. And what this saves her a lot of time. Usually people will tell them, okay, you know, in half the month I want half my pay, and I get my stub, you know, my payroll at the end of the month. Instead of doing payroll twice a month for half the month, the first month, that will save her a lot of time. It's something that we're working on. The city clerk has got a lot of things here, but I'll highlight a few of them. I'll read her whole page. But one of the things they're working on big time up on the front desk is the cross-training. So that this person knows that person is, you know, so they can back each other up. The paperless files are all the files eventually are going to be scanned, and the originals and copies will be destroyed, and or depending, some of them get saved for archive stuff. The cemetery is going to get GIS'd and digitized, and then we are working on the veteran cemetery expansion. The planning department has got process improvements, spending a lot of time with outreach and coordination. Permitting is ongoing. I mean, we could just have her do that. Just do permits and forget the rest of it, right? And she would stay busy, okay? And then, of course, there's a city downtown project to be involved in that. And then, of course, the development agreements that we have ongoing right now, she has to coordinate it, track the paperwork, and keep the schedule and everybody on base. That in itself, the development agreements could take up all of our time. And then the development regulation updates with the, you know, working with the planning commission and stuff. And then, of course, there's the commission and committees, and there's the planning commission, there's the parks committee, and the historic preservation commission, all of which are important to keep in place. And the fire department, he can suck what he wants there, and I think, who did I forget?
Is there something on the other side of that top sheet?
Oh, yeah. You want to know in the top sheet? This is the details from the planner. The planner will not let you go by with just bullets. She's going to explain every little detail, okay? There, that's it.
Okay.
See it? There's the detail, all right? There, okay. You can read it later. So, let me quick. So, but I'd like to open it up to the council, you know, one at a time with any kind of thing that you'd like to see us try to do, or, you know, that you're, other than this, you know, I know, Matt, you got some ideas. Come on, speak up.
You know, big one for me is transparency. I think, excuse me, I intend to bring a proposal to install fixed cameras in here. Love our friends at Inland, but I think that being able to stream our other meetings that haven't been on the planning commission for a year and a half, there's a lot of important stuff that happens there that people don't necessarily know about, and I think we should be able to offer people a live look into those meetings as well. So, and then also helping the police department get on social media and start using that to enhance community policing is something I'm going to help them with. So,
But I'm going to add to him. The important part of it that he knows that he'll help us with, if and when, and the police department will start having their own website, all that social media stuff has to be captured, right?
yes, records retention for public records.
Retention for public records, and then it's real easy. But these are things you guys will discuss, will proposal be brought forward. We're not deciding anything tonight, okay? And John, you got something you want?
Yeah, this is in response to a request I received, an email from a member of the Kiwanis. And I believe we've talked about it amongst ourselves this past year too. Asking for us for a possible rethinking of the city ban on fireworks. And what they're pointing to is fireworks discharged New Year's Eve as opposed to 4th of July. 4th of July a lot of times the weather may or may not be cooperative, but usually New Year's Eve, you're not gonna run into the same issue burning the town down if you set off fireworks. So I guess I would like us to, at some point, discuss it as a council, or if you wish to assign it to a committee or something like that, to talk about what we can or can't do in rethinking our ban.
Any other ideas?
One of the things that's been brought up in conversation, some at council meetings, some around town, but the city needs, I think we need to take on an active role in how that happens or not. But we have a community just outside of our city limits, Suncadia. It's no secret that they're next to us and we're next to them, and that their property taxes go straight to the county and do not get spent in this area to make Cle Elum a better city to live next to or in. And they directly impact our city in good and bad ways. And so the task of annexation of Suncadia is not something that the city does by itself. So nurturing an environment where a task force could be created that the city would take part in, and just getting that out that the city wants to court that. I don't know anybody directly opposed to it. There's a lot of people with questions, a lot of people that aren't sure how it's going to happen. But at present, I don't know anybody that's directly opposed to bringing the cash cow into the gate and making Cle Elum and this whole area of the county a better place to live in. Because I think we could much more efficiently do that. It would answer a lot of I believe it'll answer a lot of the problems as far as funding for a police department, funding for a fire department. It would be more efficient. They'd be able to be under the umbrella of Cle Elum's fire department without having to have an extra tax to the county that the district would impose on them. So it's just a lot of good things, but no one thing makes it happen. It's not like you sign a piece of paper and it becomes, it's a process, and we need to start mapping out, is that going to be a 5-year process, a 10-year process, and making the city actively seeking that. I think this is the year it needs to begin not being talk anymore. And then the camera thing I would add to that my understanding is Channel 41 is going to be discontinuing in the near future. Is that correct?
Just the news part.
Just the news part.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're still airing city council meetings and other things.
Good.
We're better than just news.
But having the accessibility like what the county does to be able to go back and watch a meeting that you missed a week or two ago, like you said, the committee meetings you can't always be part of. Anything that happens in this room, it'd be great to have it on video that's able to be browsed again.
Well, and that is a discussion you guys will have to have when there's a proposal and what you think. Well, and and I don't mean to put anybody on the spot, but if anybody else wants to chime in, go right ahead, but otherwise,
I was going to chime in on the thing that I've chimed about through the years. And I'll have more time this year, and so I'll work with Rob and Lucy and Ben and Mike and you and whatever, and county government, particularly Public Works, on our transportation issues, things that we're dealing with already and things you can see down the road. I know you've mentioned it would be a good idea to have a second bridge. Anyway, we've talked about that, road work just outside the city limits. I mean, how many of us every day don't drive outside the city limits? And yet, as a city, we're in the city, we got to start coordinating with the county, DOT, and so on. Eventually, I would like to revisit the issue of a complete freeway intersection with DOT and federal highways and others, but they made it plain when we met several years ago that until the city deals with the things they can, don't talk to us. So I want to get us looking at all these things and working with all these experts We gotta get right of way if we're gonna put a bridge across the river. We gotta figure out where to put it, you know, there's a lot of things like that. So, I'm gonna be around more.
Well, that's the important part of being on the council, what you can bring to the table, you know, so I appreciate that. And Mickey, Will, and you guys, you don't have to say anything. What's on your mind, Mickey?
Well, I think the biggest thing I have in mind is working on the UGA.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
that's a
an
big
important
deal.
factor.
Mhm.
And
There'll be plenty to do on that, for sure.
That's,
Lively year for that.
that's really the next step in
Yep.
enlarging the fence.
And not just that UGA, but the UGA
Well,
to the north
there's another
too,
one.
which
There's
is
another
forgotten a lot.
And that's sort of, you know, hovering
Right.
there, you know, so go ahead, yeah.
And the growth that we're gonna have in the city and how do we manage it? That's my biggest concern is, you know, bringing in Suncadia possibly, but just the UGAs themselves will double our population. And how do we want our city to look? We've already addressed that to a certain extent, but, and also just the,
Yeah.
yeah, just keeping our city nice looking and clean and
Yeah.
maintained. Getting enough dollars in the bank to do that.
Yes, it is a combination between the downtown and City Hall, you know, that synergy. The more we can help them, the more, you know, SACs we have to work with, you know, and so we do that. So, down there, Dan, any ideas?
Loads of them.
Oh,
You know, one thing I would like to look at and work on is filling our empty city. We're gonna put all this money into making it a walking town, but we're gonna be walking from blank building to blank building to blank building. And the way it's set now, we sort of have a, you know, a far east end and a far west end that are doing okay, but in the middle, it doesn't feel like there's walkability. We just lost another big cornerstone, you know, this month, and we keep losing restaurants and we keep losing businesses. So I think there must be a way on how do we get these businesses to thrive, from the two little breweries to adding a big brewery down at the end. How do we encourage other businesses to come here? I mean, it's got this, Cle Elum's a great small town, it's growing, but it doesn't feel like we're growing at a time when we continually close businesses in this town. But we're gonna focus on beautifying it. We need to fill these vacant buildings, and we need to get people working and get money made to the people that are left in this town. And I think one of the things we should focus on as the city councils, how do we keep our businesses from thriving, or to thrive? How do we get these guys to thrive? How do we help every business in town? And I think that's one of the reasons I joined this council, is to figure out how do we keep the small businesses that have started here booming, and how do we keep money in their pockets so they don't have to leave town and cross over another bridge and drive an hour and a half just to get work again. So that's one thing I'm going to push to focus on. Another one is
Oh, yeah. Beat me to it.
this. This could all be digital. Look, all this can go to this easily and very affordably and very efficiently. We have the experts in the room that can help us take this paperwork to a digital age. And I would even encourage go take it with the City Council of North Bend, where they have moved to a digital age, and see how they did it and see how it's working. Just ask them. I mean, point blank, I think. But all the paperwork we get and we print and we move, not only is it work hours for somebody in the office, it's also resources that we are taking away from other things we could use as we try to become greener.
And no more paper recycling.
And no more paper recycling or glass recycling, so other issues. But I'd love to figure out how to get digital, and I'd love to figure out how to get our small businesses booming again, so when people talk about, you know, like, oh man, I had a great fly fish shop and a great meal and a great beer. It was awesome, and I bought some stuff, and then I kept going down to the next town. So.
Well, and I'd add to that, part of the model that we are working with for our downtown comes from Granger, is that right, Ben? Granger. And they had the exact same thing, but after they got the walkability in, every store in that, except for one maybe, is full now.
That's great.
So that is the goal, and so I appreciate that kind of effort. So, I'm gradually coming around to you know, paperless. gradually, slowly.
Why not?
You know, sorry, you don't have to, but those that want. But if we do it for the council, we do it for the planning commission, we're gonna have all this stuff, then we, you know, whatever those tablets, you know, you've got a good point, and there's plenty of ability here on the council to advise us on how to go about it. Benton County went paperless years ago, you know, lots of other places have done it, you know, so.
Rip the bandage.
Huh?
Rip the bandage.
Rip the
Ultimate-
bandage.
Ultimately, it doesn't happen until there's a line item in the budget.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go. So,
correct.
and so, yeah.
And you have two people on the budget committee that aren't exactly
Yeah.
enthusiastic about going paperless.
Oh, is that right? Oh, well, maybe we'll change the budget committee. That's all right. That's
I
another.
didn't know I was against it until he said that.
I didn't say against it, I said not enthusiastic about going.
Sorry. Well, and I can tell you guys, I'm still gonna have paper, because I use it in there. But it's all right.
Our copier contract might be upset, but I wonder what we spend on printing for all our
Well, that's
council
what
and
we'll
boards
do.
and commissions
We'll have
every
to-
year.
we'll-
Bet you it's steep.
Those all have to be factored in, for sure. It's a good one. So it's on the list, right?
Good goal.
It's a good goal. It's a great goal. So, all right, so if there is anything else, you know, we do have a lot of things with the police department, but we'll let that go for now. Let's get on with the rest of the meeting, and, you know, for starting off this year, I think we have some good ideas of things to do. We got lots to do, let's face it.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Okay,
I'll second that.
all right, that was good. All the motion to consent agenda, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, I couldn't even focus on it yet. Okay, all right, we took up all the time, the officers report, you guys only got 10 minutes, all right?
All right, total,
So we'll hear from our city administrator, Rob, first, and see what you got.
let's see what I got. Yeah, thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. First of all, I know this is the first meeting of the year. I do want to thank all the new members and the old members, you know. This is sort of, you do get paid, but it's a volunteer, and we couldn't run the city without you. And so I just want to personally, you know, I appreciate all of your work that you're going to be up against here this year. So I just want to give you final numbers on the 2019 building department. We had 83 permits, and we took in just almost $147,000. So last year we took in 2018 we took in 121,000, and so we're climbing more. I did 464 inspections last year. I don't have a number for all of 2018. I know I've been doing a lot more inspections, I feel like. So I feel the building department is obviously really strong, and it's going pretty good. Other things, you know, really, Mayor read some things about developing, you know, policies, and I've just been working with staff to help them with that. So other than that, if you have questions, that's all my report today.
All right. Okay, so now we'll hear from our planner, Lucy Temple.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council. So we are working on the VFW cemetery expansion. Hopefully that's gonna be moving forward more rapidly very soon. There's been a lot of process to get through. Downtown revitalization project phase 2 coming up. And the mayor did talk about how we're gonna be coordinating with the Cle Elum Downtown Association, or CEDA, on the communications plan, which will be deployed in a few weeks. And then we're also planning a project community open house to talk about, you know, what's entailed in the project, what are the impacts, people can come in and ask questions in a format that is more conversational. And we'll have Ben and Mike and myself and whomever else from staff that needs to be there. And I've tentatively set that for the second week of February, but we'll definitely be promoting that date as soon as it's confirmed. The Stafford Avenue project is another project that's coming up. It's gonna construction in May, and that one is Stafford Avenue and SR 903 or 2nd Street. That intersection is going to be redesigned for safety. It's a Safe Routes to School grant that we got. It was, I want to say, we are paying $18,000 out of a total of, I believe, about 380,000. Oh, 370, I thought, but something. We're paying next to nothing for a really great project, and it actually will connect 2 parks, and it'll extend kids and folks that are using the sidewalks. It'll erase some of those question marks for people using the intersection of where do I go now and who's waiting for me and who's. I've seen a lot of games of chicken out there with kids on bikes. It's no good. So we're excited about that. The downtown revitalization project phase 2 and the Stafford Avenue project will have an overlap from May to June. So we're going to be working with HLA and the contractors and Public Works to make sure that there's the least amount of conflict as possible. And we'll be getting the word out to people early and often. And then the ongoing work on 47 North, as the mayor mentioned, is a considerable amount of time for the planning department and the team of planning consultants and engineers working on that. They're continuing through the draft EIS for that project. The next public update will likely be an updated schedule for the project. And so as soon as we have that, we'll be giving that out to the public. And the project website, I just want to remind everybody that all the projects I mentioned, except for the cemetery project, we have project web pages for them. You can find them off of our public notices tab on our website. And we will be updating any of those with updated schedules or project information as we receive it.
That sounds like a period.
Period.
Or an exclamation.
And done.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, that's good update. So we'll hear from our Mike Engelhardt, our Public Works Director.
Honorable Mayor, council members, first off, congratulations, all the new faces up there, and congratulations for everybody that got reelected. Looking forward to another great year. The mayor kind of highlighted all the stuff we're going to do. Obviously, in the last couple of weeks, we've been faced with Mother Nature giving us a run for our money. One thing I did, along with all the other policies and procedures I've been reviewing, is we never really had a written guideline for snow removal in the city. It's all just been word of mouth, what we do. So now we officially have it in writing. It's on the Public Works page on the city's website. So you're free to go look at it. A couple of the highlights of things that I constantly get phone calls about. Mother Nature gives us the snow, we move it off of our streets. It's kind of, we cut the road in half. We all get our fair share to play with. After my crew gets off work, we got to go home and shovel our own driveway. So I understand it's a pain, but that's kind of how it works when you live in an area with lots of snow. The Public Works Department normally doesn't go out until 5 o'clock in the morning after we've had 6 inches or more of snow. What that does is that helps save us a lot of money in the long run just with fuel, with the equipment. A couple of the highlights that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, along with the fact that the berms are the homeowner's responsibilities to move for their parking spot, is when you do remove those berms, the snow can be piled on a paved city right-of-way, but after 48 hours it needs to be removed. There's a reason for that. One of them is we're getting ready to put in a new storm system. Right now we currently don't have the infrastructure to handle it. When the snow starts to melt, the water runs down, it hits a berm, creates a dam, floods a business. So that's the reasoning behind having to move the snow. So the city policy or code that's actually chapter 12.14 of the city code does highlight the very first one there, that the snow may be piled in the city right away, but it does need to be removed within 48 hours. One of the things the city has done is, for years I guess, is they lease this property back here on Railroad, and that's where we encourage people to go store it if they need a place to get rid of it. So ideally put it in your front yard, but if you're a business downtown and you don't have that resource, we do have Railroad Street available for snow piling, and you'll see the obvious piles that the city's been using. So other than that, like I said, looking forward to a great year. Lots of things on the books for us to do. And if anybody has any questions.
I just want to thank you and your crew for the great work you're doing with plowing and the snow removal. It's been real good, so thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
One of the questions, glad you brought that up because I know where you live, One of the questions that gets brought up a lot is they see the plow trucks running around in the middle of the mornings and whatnot, and what they're doing is they're heading for, we have several hills in the city. One of them is Oaks, one of them is Stafford, one of them is Denny Avenue, Cottage, to name a few. And with the information that you can find at the city, there's also maps on there that we've kind of highlighted. We have our priority 1 areas that when we do get an event, doesn't matter if it's 2 inches, it creates a slick surface. We do have emergency vehicles that have to access some of these residents up there in case of an emergency, so that's what the crews are out doing. They're maintaining the hills area and getting them sanded to where the emergency vehicles can access those areas if they need to. So hopefully they don't, but if they do, they at least have that access. That's why they see them out in the, because people always, I get that phone call, they're out plowing, but they're not hitting my road. Well, that's why. So, anything else?
No. Okay. Thank you, Mike. So we'll hear from our police chief, Brad.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm just going to talk about the Adopt a City program. You should have gotten a handout. What the Adopt a City program in a nutshell, what that is doing is we've assigned officers, 2 officers per each city, and it's going to be used as a communication tool direct from the cities to the police department. I'm just going to read our vision here. It's to have a direct communication channel between officers and citizens to work together to develop solutions for current problems or issues. This outreach program will serve as a tool to better understand what our community's needs are for better quality of life and safety. So, for example, Ben is here tonight. Ben is assigned City of Cle Elum. He's one of the 2 officers. So if I'm not able to make a council meeting, Ben or his partner is Jen for City of Cle Elum. They'll be here. So anytime the citizen comes up for their 15-minute comment, if it's something that we as a police department can help them with or discuss, that's where they're here to get that information. And another big factor of this for open communication tools, like Councilman Lund talked about, is the social media process. So that'd be another way that we are able to communicate and discuss issues. I just want to stress that when we do get up and running on our social media, that doesn't displace dispatch. So we're not going to get dispatched off of Facebook. So therefore, if you have a complaint where you need our services, it's inappropriate to put them on our social media because that's not going to be monitored 24/7. Still called dispatch. But the social media is a perfect example. When 2nd Street got taken out with the tree and it was down, you know, an officer could have gone on Twitter right then and there and said, hey, avoid 2nd Street's closed for the day. So that type of thing. So all the officers will have access to Twitter for any type of instant messaging that we want to get out. And of course, we'll have our own home page for our website, which currently we have a Facebook site for animal control that'll get absorbed into our overall police department page. So we can go to the police department and get all aspects of us in one spot. And I'm looking forward to working with Matt a lot to get that going as soon as we can. That's all I have. Thanks.
So Ed, our fire chief, will address us now.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, again, welcome to the new members and thank you. So we had 33 calls last month. We had 3 fires, 27 EMS, and 3 other. We had a cooking fire, a semi-tractor that caught fire, and then one other fire alarm. So it's been, as the mayor said, it's been approximately 6 years now with our levy lid lift. And we've done lots of great things with that contribution. So, and some of them being, we upgraded our SCBA tanks. So we were on a low pressure before. We've upgraded those to high pressure. That was about a savings of about 80 grand to the citizens of the city. We also purchased the heavy wet rescue that we replaced our old rescue unit and put in a foam capable heavy wet rescue. We actually purchased a auto cot to tie in and be interadaptable with our medic unit. That was about an $18,000 purchase. We actually saved quite a bit on that because we got a refurbished rig, and I think we actually got that for 17. We actually outfitted our employees with Class B uniforms. So we've all got a Class B uniform now, so we've kind of upgraded in that area. And we actually, the final purchase that we've still got coming, it should arrive sometime in February. I've heard that the light tower is gonna arrive in a couple of weeks, and they'll outfit that light tower, and then it'll arrive, is our new structure engine. And that's huge. That's a purchase that will affect the ratings for the city, through the Washington State ratings. Every 10 years you have to upgrade or you lose points. And we were at 22 years on our newest engine. So this is gonna give us 10 years. And we've actually implemented plans to set monies aside to set forth to purchase an engine in 10 years. So plans are set for us to stay compliant in that area. So then I'm in the process of upgrading our reporting system. So I sent an email off yesterday actually, and we're going to go to an AutoCAD. So our information will automatically download for our calls and our time. So it'll save a lot of time for our members. We lost the ability to get a printed email. The Kitcom doesn't send emails out anymore. They went to a fax. We don't have fax machine. We would have had to upgrade for an older system to arrive with fax. So we went with the AutoCAD, and we're in the process of doing that. So I really look forward to getting that implemented. I'm working with Mike at Public Works to tie in our reporting system with our hydrants, and be working along with the equipment. And then just excited to move forward this year. So, any questions?
Thank you, Jeff. Great. Okay, William LaRue from Veolia. I usually try to forget about him, but I didn't today.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the council, members of staff and viewing audience. Happy New Year to you all. 2020 is only 2 weeks old, but it seems to me like it's been 6 months already. Mother Nature's kind of slammed us a little bit with a lot of snow at the end of 2019, which quickly turned to rain. Dumped almost an inch of rain on us in a matter of about 24, 26 hours, somewhere in there. Flows at the wastewater plant went from about 800 gallons a minute up to over 1,700 gallons a minute. Really had us hopping and running down there. Then we got the windstorm on New Year's night that affected both the plants. We lost power at both facilities. Generators came on and maintained the operations, but again, we're dealing with high flow from the wastewater side. And then we get all this snow on top of us that we've had a lot of effort trying to remove everything from the plants and keep those clear. At the water plant, we've been on and off the well field numerous times throughout the first 2 weeks, primarily due to river turbidities getting kicked out because of the rainstorms that we had. And now with these colder temps coming in, we're trying to heat the system up so that we're not freezing pipelines out there. The water treatment plant upgrade, they've got the lights in. I no longer feel like a mole up there. It's nice and bright. Heaters have been installed, the plumbing is installed, and they're currently laying the gas line, or digging the trench to lay the gas line. They started on that one yesterday. New members of the council and old members of the council, I'd like to invite you to take a tour of the facilities. If you've been there before, great, come on in and see what we've got. The new folks, I'd really like you to see you come in and take a look at what we have, what you are ultimately responsible for, so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about when I'm here at the council members or at council meetings. And I'd also like to throw out there, if there are any changes in my monthly reports that you folks would like to see different or new, by all means, first of the year, I'd love to do something different to make this things that are going to work for you and give you a better understanding of the treatment facilities. In the packet are my usual graphs, nothing real startling in there other than it's printed on paper. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions for you folks.
Did you get your new hire in?
I'm going to probably be making an offer to an individual this week.
Cool. Good.
And our water plant flow and really all of them were a little higher 19 than we were in 18. And we don't necessarily have a lot more hookups in Cle Elum, but we're getting a steady increase to the system, particularly at Sun Acadia, aren't we?
Yes, we're seeing it all over.
So that's what's driving the increase. And how are we doing for bringing out any additional capacity? Do we need to be doing more? Are we in good shape for the next several years?
I think capacity-wise, we're in fairly good shape. We are currently at 6 million gallons a day for capacity regulated by the Department of Health. I think where we really need to put a thrust is going to be in our storage areas. With the more people we have coming in, the potential for more developments coming in, we're going to need to start looking more at getting reservoirs installed or expanding our reservoirs rather than relying on trying to meet these demands through a pipeline.
Right. Has Suncadia given you any information as to their storage? I mean, it's their thing, it's not our thing, I realize that.
I've heard nothing.
We pump up to the city tank and then it's theirs.
Correct.
So,
I don't know where they're at as far as their capacity or their expansion of capacity out on their ends.
Yeah, and that is, it is interesting, of course, what he's reporting here is for a regional water and a regional sewer.
Yes.
So this is all the communities that are affecting the operation that he reports on. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for all the reports. So, citizen comments on non-agenda items. Is there anyone out here? There's a citizen right there. I don't think that citizen wants to talk to us. All right, so there's no citizen comments tonight. So, under public appearances, we have a planning commission update by Deborah Davis.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I bring you greetings from the Planning Commission. We had the thought that we might like to update you more and keep you advised on what we're doing. Last year, the comprehensive plan update was finalized, and that was a huge task that we accomplished. Now it's time to implement. And with our fearless leader, Lucy, who gives us a lot of good guidance. A lot of ideas are generated. Our two emphasis items this year are housing and fire adaptability. The last couple meetings we have been just gathering information about housing, what the needs are, what the barriers in the city are to developing housing at all levels. So we're looking at more affordable housing, because we know we are a low to moderate income city. So we're looking at how to house the growth that's coming, what the needs are, as far as workforce housing, etc. So that's our main focus at the first part of the year. I expect probably later we'll be looking into fire adaptability. We really haven't talked about it yet, but it's something that's up in our minds. So yeah, we'd like to incentivize housing. What are some ideas that how we can work with developers to bring the housing we need to the city? We have a Parks and Rec subcommittee. Things are happening there. And I'd just like to commend Lucy Temple, our planner, who does a great job. She really does a lot. I don't know how she does it all, but she's great to work with and really helps the Planning Commission. So perhaps quarterly, we'll come in and visit with you and let you know what's going on in the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Deb,
Yes,
would you mind saying one thing about the arts?
the Arts Commission?
Yeah.
So last year, actually it was our intern who was helping Lucy, who had the idea that maybe Cle Elum should have an arts commission. I worked with Lucy a little bit to figure out how other cities establish arts commissions. So this would be a group of people who helps guide the aesthetic look of the city, perhaps works on getting public art installed. Down by Owens and the bakery, there is a space for public art. The city right now doesn't have any way to fill that. And perhaps with the downtown revitalization, some ideas we had were refresh the murals, the advertising on some of the old buildings to give Cle Elum that, or at least the downtown, that classic 1920s, 1930s brick building city look that gives downtown some of the character that it has. Really, it's unlimited. If we have an arts commission, we can go after funding. We can support arts in the schools, and we're not just talking about visual arts, but music, theater, literature, just to develop the cultural life of our city a little more. Yeah, so.
And Deb has been the catalyst for that movement, having a master's in fine arts, being an artist. She has some unique perspective and a lot to add. So thank you for coming, and also thank you for being, moving that forward for us.
Okay, that was just a poke in the...
No, you told me you wanted to work on it in 2020.
I do. So yes, that is another thing we'd like to work on in 2020.
Yeah, there you
If
go.
we get to it,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
No, that's important. It really adds a lot.
It does.
Sure.
It
You
does.
bet.
So, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, there's no business requiring public hearings, there's no unfinished business, and we'll turn the agenda over to new business here. And, yeah, here we go. Yes, we're doing good. So, first off, we're going to hear from Ben Hannon on the bid acceptance for the First Street Stormwater and Billings intersection. So walk us through it then.
You bet. Honorable Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to come present tonight. Quite a few things on the agenda here, but a lot of them are related. The first one being the bid acceptance and award. So, got a recommendation of contract award to Strider Construction of Bellingham, Washington. This is in regards to the First Street Stormwater and Billings Avenue intersection. We'll call it bid, but essentially it was a rebid with a little bit of work added to it. 8 bids were actually received, which was fantastic. I know we were anticipating anywhere in the 4 to 5 range, and when Kathy said they were 8 gold envelopes, we were all jumping up and down excited for it. It was fantastic. The low was $1.4 million, so $1,408,798. The engineer's estimate was $1,588,800, so 11% below the engineer's estimate. If you think back to May, and I know we've got a couple new council members, but originally this project was bid in May, and it was just the First Street Stormwater and then what we call the westerly bookend, the Billings Avenue intersection, all the streetscape improvements. When that project was bid in May, the low bid on that one alone was $1,581,615, which was significantly over the engineer's estimate and project funding. And at that time, City Council decided we should rebid the project. I know Ken was a big proponent for that, and bravo, it worked out well. So in the meantime, between May and November, when this project was rebid, we added the north block from Oaks to Billings and the streetscape improvements for it. So not only is the bid lower than the low bid amount, but there's also added work to the project. And so it worked out really well. Talking to some of the contractors afterward, you know, what was the difference this go around? Surprisingly, Initiative 976 was the car tabs that was passed. That had a huge impact. on this bid. So even though I'm not a proponent of 976 because I know the impacts on the statewide transportation system, in the interim, there's a very positive impact for local agencies, for projects, because the supply-demand equation just got flipped upside down. So that's, I think, part of the reason why we saw 8 bids on this project, and they got more aggressive than they have been in the last couple of years. So with that said, the project is funded in total between, and the next bid item, or the next business item, we can talk about some of the funding, but it is funded in total through a number of grants. Just recently, the city was awarded a $450,000 grant through the Kittitas County and Distress County Sales Tax Fund for $450 grand. And so ultimately, the project is funded in total, and the recommendation of award is to be set to go tonight. So we recommend a motion for awarding the contract.
Make a motion that we accept the bid from Strider Construction Company in the amount of $1,408,798 for the First Street Stormwater and Billings Avenue Intersection Improvements Project.
I'll second that.
And moved and seconded to accept the bid for the First Street Stormwater and Billings Avenue intersection improvements. Questions on the motion?
I'll just comment. When the original proposals were brought to us, like Ken championed the idea, and I stated it like this, that the high bids were a sign of the season, not a sign of times. And I'm glad that we made that gamble of waiting, and it paid off. And I would understand in substantial support of this.
And Ben was in on that. I mean, he said that it didn't have to be at that time. The funding would allow for that.
Yep.
So that's really appreciated. And then adding more, boy, what a great deal.
Yes, that was a challenge in itself too. It's amazing.
That's from the great work from HLA.
Yes, for sure. Any other questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's passed. But I do have a question about this. Is this, is there a sign sheet of acceptance? I don't have to sign this or anything?
I think there's something on Kathy's desk.
The letter of acceptance that goes to Strider.
Oh, that letter of acceptance. Okay, gotcha. Yes, all right, all right. Okay, so next we'll go to addendum to task order number 2018-01, First Street, Billings Avenue intersection. So, Ben, what is the addendum about?
Yes, so related to that project, with the original project and the contract days associated with it, with the added work, also added archaeological monitoring as required by DAHP for the concurrence, and then on top of it, funding administration of the, let's see, 7 grants. There's an addendum for those services in front of you, which is consistent with that other contract. So there's 100 working days with the Strider construction contract, and with that is the inspection, the contract administration, basically oversight of the entire construction project, and then also the funding administration. But this also includes archaeological monitoring. So this is HLA's services as part of the construction project.
Okay.
And those services, we have an approximate amount that they come up to, or they're just under our normal line item of city engineering.
This is project specific, so
right. So it's paid for out of
it's paid for out of the grants.
Out of the grants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, typically on a project, so like the Second and Stafford project, you might have one funding source on a project of that magnitude, but something like this, that's a $2 million project. There's CDBG, Surface Transportation Block Grant, USDA, multiples from Kittitas County Distressed, TIB Complete Streets, and also some local funding. So yeah, with the combination of funds, there's quite a bit on the grant administration side.
Okay.
I make the motion we approve task order number 2018-01.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to approve task order number 2018-01.
For clarification,
Yeah.
the addendum to the task order. Is what's-
Addendum to task order, addendum number 1. That was the number.
I figured.
Okay,
Just read what it said before.
yes, all right. Questions on that motion? Not all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So now, the GCB 3148 amendment number 1 for street variance. This is, has to do with Washington. So, Ben, you want to?
You bet. So the GCV contract is with WashDOT. It's for $10,000 and it is for oversight. Being that this is State Route 903, DOT is involved with the oversight of all construction within the state route. This amendment is essentially a formality for, rather than having a 2019 construction project, this is a 2020 construction project. So this is extending the completion date and replacing the contract plans from the May bid with the November bid. So a pretty simple amendment with the DOT agreement.
So my first question is, boy, there it is there, it's the big fat one. I was looking for it. Okay.
Yeah, it has all the contract plans in it as well.
That's all the contract. And this is, okay, all right. Was that description adequate? Is that through you guys at all?
I would move that we approve GCB 3184 amendment number 1 as presented.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded to approve the GCB 3184 amendment number 1 First Street. Questions on the motion? All in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now, then the next one is the, so that Bayer testing. Another big, all right.
It's mostly Phil, yeah.
Okay, okay, so then, is that you again, Ben?
Yes.
So-
Yes.
Bear testing, not to be confused with beer tasting. Bear testing, this is a contract for the materials testing and sampling. Generally on construction projects, the materials testing and the sampling is always under the contract with the construction contractor. But anytime federal funds are introduced to a project, the city has to procure and manage and contract those services directly. And so that's what this is a contract with bear testing between the city and Bear. HLA went out and solicited bids. Bear testing was responsive, as well as the low bid of the 3 proposals that were received. Bear testing performed testing services on phase 1 on the easterly bookend as well. So there's some continuity there. And that contract is for just under $18,000, which is also, again, part of the project is funded through the grants, not an additional expense to the city.
It's mostly filler.
Yeah, it's all filler, I know, for an $18,000 project.
The next to last sheet has
Pertinent
what,
information.
yeah, what Ben was just talking about, the kinds of testing anticipated and the price. Looks good.
And it's important,
Yes.
you know, that compaction and all that sort of stuff.
There's not a Yakima, have you used them, Ben?
Probably on 75% of the projects, both selected by HLA, but also mostly selected by contractors because they're such a reputable organization and they do a fine job. And they're very responsive on some of the night calls as well. Now, on the first phase, there was some night work with some of the trenches across the state route, and they work all hours of the night as well. So that is one positive with this testing firm, is that they are available for night work as necessary.
Okay.
I make the motion we pass the amendment for the bear testing.
Okay.
I make the motion we pass the amendment for bear testing. Wasn't speaking up.
Anyways, okay.
I would second that.
It's moved and seconded to accept the bid for bear testing professional service.
Professional service.
Professional service agreement. Okay, questions on the motion? None, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one is passed. Okay, now we're going to task order 2020-01, water system plan update. And Ben, you're on the hook again.
All right, so unrelated to the downtown revitalization is the water system plan update. In fact, good segue from Ken and Willie's conversation earlier about water capacity, source capacity, storage capacity, those kind of things. So Department of Health, every 6 years, well, previously every 6 years, agencies were required to update their water system plan. And the city's water system plan expires February 1st of 2022. It was prepared back in 2013, was approved in 15, and so that's how they come up with the expiration date. Generally, it's a 2-year task, which seems like a long task, but being that there's 2 90-day review periods built into that for Department of Health, as well as a 45-day review period by Ecology. And recently, with some of the staffing issues Department of Health has had and the influx of demands of some of these plans, you can expect generally another 60 to 90-day extension on the 90 days they already have. So you definitely have to plan ahead on water system expiration dates, and that's why we wanted to get this one on the agenda early this year. Timing couldn't be better with some of the applications that are coming in, especially with 47 North, and how that will have impacts on the city's water system. And so, yeah, every 6 years, the council can decide to go. Department of Health actually made a change 3 years ago. Every 10 years is the new expiration on that. And so you do get a little more bang for your buck on the water system plan. Now, if there is a major development that comes in that has massive impacts on your plan, you can amend it, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. But it certainly helps from budgeting perspective, because these aren't inexpensive documents, and the Department of Health understands that. So that's why they moved from a 6-year period to a 10-year period. So assuming approval February of 2022, the city would have an approved plan until 2032 with this document in place. And so this is a partnership document. That's the way it's set up, is with South Cle Elum and Cle Elum. And so with the 2013 document, there was a share in cost by South Cle Elum and Cle Elum, the same way as set up this go around. In fact, South Cle Elum just approved the task order for their portion of the document just last week. So that is approved, it's in place, and go ahead.
Why isn't Suncadia in on it?
Suncadia is considered a customer, so they are not, they're not a manager of a water system plan like Cle Elum and South Cle Elum are.
It's an obvious question. Good answer.
As much as I'd love to say.
But if we have to have it to supply for a customer, does the customer have to bear any of this expense for, it's simply ours, or is it?
So the way that the water system plans are set up and the financial program within the water system plans is customers ultimately pay for the utility. And so they're a large customer, Suncadia is, but they're no different than any other customer. And so that would just be more of a rate structure, is if you wanted certain customers to pay for certain elements of things and magnitude of things.
Okay, so as we proceed with this, and we come up with $100,000, part of that can be applied towards, that expense can be applied towards our customers throughout the system, through our rate structure.
Correct, it should be paid through a rate structure. There's not grants available for water system plan updates.
Yes, okay, yeah, I follow. Okay, that's interesting.
We've got to keep that in mind.
Oh, yes, we do, exactly. So that's a big deal. Well, there is time to get this done, but, so.
2 years to budget for it.
What's that?
2 years to budget for it.
Yeah, exactly. We would have to start budgeting for it. Right?
Well, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we have to figure out.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is a monetary obligation, but it is something we have to do.
This is money paying before 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, but I think we can spread it out. The cost,
Right.
It isn't like a one lump sum. It gradually, it's like the faucet, it drips out, expensive. Okay, with that explanation of the water system plan, what is the council?
I make a motion, did we accept task order number 2020-01? David Creed.
Second.
Oh,
Okay, so moved and seconded to accept task order number 2021-01 regarding agreement between the city and HLA for a
2020.
water system plan update.
2020 dash.
2020, yes, dash, yeah, okay. I'm fumbling away here. Questions on the motion?
Well, note the next to last clause that we're committing to on
Yeah.
the second page.
Yeah, I did, I circled mine, that's why I brought it up.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up.
So the council knows that.
Yeah. So, questions on the motion? If none, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Marching down that road. So, it looks to me like we might be done with Ben. Is there anything else, Ben? You know, he does have to drive to Yakima, and it's really fun out right now, but if there isn't anything else, Ben, I don't know if you want to stick around, you're welcome, but I mean, if the council doesn't mind,
Okay.
Ben,
No,
you can pack your
certainly
bag.
appreciate that.
Yeah, he's got a
Appreciate
family and
that.
kids at home too, you know.
I do want to say thank you too for the selection again. The city went through engineering selection and 3-year, we'll call it a renewal, but a 3-year selection. Excited to continue the good work in Cle Elum here. There's the last few years just reflecting, there's been a lot of good things, but there's a whole lot coming down the pipeline too, and it's exciting to be a part of, so I appreciate that. It's been over 30 years now that HLA and Cle Elum have worked together on engineering things. So, all right, well, thanks so much.
Actually, remember when they?
No, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. Huber C. alone. You guys are retired, Ben's taking it over. All right, no, that is great. They got us our water rights. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a really big deal.
Many others.
Yes. Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, so now, Mike, we're down here to ordinance 1578. And this is a salary ordinance amendment that Mike would like to address the council.
Honorable Mayor, council members, just to be clear, so nobody gets sticker shock, this does not add a new position. This is just, or excuse me, how to phrase that. This is not us hiring a new position. This is just taking a current employee and giving them a promotion. So we're adding a field supervisor to the public works team. And the reasoning behind it is obviously with, like Ben stated, everything that's coming down the pike. I'm gonna be needed elsewhere, so I need somebody in the field that I can depend on that's gonna kind of take control of the day-to-day operations of what's happening around the city.
So to give you an idea, before, you know, in the past, it was like maybe 4 guys. And the city superintendent was down, you know, with him. Well, now he supervises 6 people. And he needs to have, rather than an assistant superintendent, a field guy. And so we have a person, he does, that is basically doing that job. And so that gives them an opportunity. So that's why we're doing this.
No, my only question is, you anticipate this being a full-time position then? The need for a full-time, that somebody would be promoted to that on a full-time basis?
Long term.
And your outlook is that the city will need that? The only question I'm asking is, like, you see it going from not being needed, or it's always been needed and we just basically not filled that position, or we're developing a need for it?
Well, as we're all noticing, and that's what a lot of the discussion is tonight, is how the city is growing. Well, with that growth, I'm being asked to do a lot more in-house stuff with the contracts and that type of thing. So out in the field, I need somebody that I can lean on, and if you look at his job description, not only does it come with just the day-to-day operations, he's also got some other requirements that are gonna as far as training and that type of stuff. One of the things that has never been discussed is we subcontract out backflow assembly testing.
Sure, I'm just kidding.
He's going on.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
So there's value add in there. He's not just simply being paid more for doing the job that he's doing, he's adding other responsibilities.
Correct. Along with, he's also already been taking on a lot of the responsibilities with no extra added benefit as well. So.
He has been leaned on for some time, actually.
Yeah, this is a great idea. We like to have competent people working for us, and we do. And we want to be an employer of choice, and it's kind of a lean crew. You can see there's not much there. So I think it's called for. And like Mike has said, with all the working with Ben and this, that, and the other thing, he can't do as good a job being stretched out in the field and doing all this other stuff. So having a go-to individual out there, that's what this is. It's just a great idea.
So, what are you guys thinking?
Oh, well, so there's no impact on the current 2020 budget with the new employee?
Well, yes, it will, the remainder, the balance of the pay increase will come out of Public Works budget.
But the existing budget. We don't
Correct.
have a budget amendment
Correct.
for
Right.
this. It's included in the budget.
Yes, that's right.
It was anticipated.
Awesome.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 1578 as presented.
I'll second it.
Wow. Okay, moved and seconded to approve, well, I'm gonna call it a resolution, but you said, one, what did you say, one?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Where?
We were looking here.
Oh, that one there. Where is it? Okay, wow, my mistake, okay. But usually, we do it by ordinance, don't we? We change it by attending.
Yeah, it's by ordinance and
Yeah, he said ordinance.
Yeah.
At the top.
Oh, it sure does say 1578, okay. All right,
the motion is in there.
okay, the motion is in.
Oh, man. Messed it up.
No, you didn't mess it up at all. You didn't mess it up at all. Oh, okay, yes. I already circled it up, we're done with that one. Okay, it's moved and seconded. Who seconded? Oh, okay. Gee whiz, sorry about that, guys. To accept, move to seconded to accept ordinance 1578, a salary ordinance amendment. Questions on the motion? If not, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion, ordinance is passed. Okay, so now, we'll go to resolution 2020-002, and this is a employee handbook amendment, and Rob is going to discuss this.
Right, thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council. This is a resolution. It is about the Paid Family Leave Act, which was a mandatory statewide insurance. So the city employer has been paying for a year, well, all of 2019, and starting 2020, the employee and the employer both pay for this. It's just an additional insurance, state, mandatory. But we do have to adopt it. We have to put it into our handbook. And so we need a resolution to adopt basically the second page, and then I'll incorporate into the handbook to be able to use it, and which we have to do this anyways. I don't know if anybody's heard of it, have questions of it, or?
Apply for it.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2020-002, making us
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been seconded, motion is made and seconded to adopt resolution 2020-002, and this is to amend the employee handbook related to family and employee policies. Questions on the motion? Not, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one is passed. So now we have another policy change, and this is, Mike will carry this one, and this, again, this is a good idea about, we are creating, like I said earlier, that the treasurer is saying, you know, we used to just sort of did stuff, right? Well, now, when we do something, we're gonna have a policy for it, okay? And so Mike, why don't you go with this?
Honorable council members, as most of you might remember, we actually put this into play last year as kind of a trial run to see how things were gonna work out. And in my opinion, and also talking to first responders, when it comes to the call out of getting Public Works' assistant in the middle of the night, this plan has like saved many, many hours of sleep for certain individuals, just because we have an on-call phone. That phone number gets forwarded to their personal phone when they go home at night or on the weekends or whatever, and if there's an emergency or whatnot, dispatch or the police department can call them directly. They don't have to go through all these channels to finally find somebody. That specific individual is responsible for being on call for that week and weekend. So it has proven itself worthy, and so we're asking to go ahead and add it into the employee handbook.
I stand in general support of but 6.4, I think you ought to check with legal, because the salary employees, for example, it says on-call and or call-out payments will only be paid when an employee is actually undertaken on-call or call-out duties, unless a different arrangement is expressly specified in the contract of the employee. And the way that I understand, and I have somewhat of an intricate understanding of it, is the way that salary works in theory in the state of Washington State is salary is a minimum amount that an employee is paid based on an arrangement, and that whenever an employee's exerted effort exceeds 40 hours in a week or whatever the normal things, that I would just be very careful. I wouldn't be able to endorse this until there's clarity there, because I think there's an oversimplified understanding of how overtime with salaried employees works, and you could get yourself into a bind there. They may not be able to exempt themselves depending on what type of salaried employees they are. There's professional salaried employees which can give up basically that right because they're a professional in their trade, and then there's other salaried employees that don't have that right to be able to give up overtime on a salaried basis. So, but just have that looked at, 6.4, before I could endorse the policy, but in general, I think it's...
I know when it came into play, and we were trying to figure out pay and compensation and that exact topic, I know Robin made several phone calls to MRSC and made sure that everything we were doing was following those proper guidelines. So I know she has done her homework into that, but we can definitely double check and make sure.
Yeah, I just don't want to put us into a liability situation where it goes on and then 10 years later someone revisits it and says, you know, anything over 40 hours, I get, you know.
So would you say if we took out the parentheses?
Yeah, if we took out that parentheses, I would stand in support of the policy.
Because it seems to me that this on-call, they're not salaried employees, they work by the hour.
Yeah, there's no exempt employees.
They're not salaried employees. I mean, let's see, who is?
I think we could take,
Do we have
you'd be okay with
We
that?
don't have any.
Yeah.
We don't have any, so we can probably just take it out.
So yeah, taking out the parentheses.
Well, now hold on, there is a category of people covered by the Fair Labor Standards Act, and then there's a category of employees who are exempt.
Correct.
From the provisions of the Fair Labor Standards Act. And I think that's a little fuzzy in here.
I think the parentheses explanation isn't necessary and only opens us up to liability as a city. That's why I would say no explanations really needed. The law explains the, you know, the terms that people work under. But 6.4.
Okay, well, Mr. Mayor, are you saying that we have no one employed by the city that's exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act?
That's right. So there's no salaried employees in the city.
Okay.
And there was a lot of discussion. Some people were insisting that we make the police chief and the superintendent and all that. But
Right.
they come in.
Yeah. And I'm
I'll
fine with
call
that, I
24
just
hours.
think it's
And we never went down that road, right?
worth knowing, so.
Yeah, even
Is he
saying,
hourly, these people are hourly?
Hourly?
even using the verbiage.
Okay. I've been retired about 10 years, but when we called out hourly people, we had a clause in there, and I assumed that it was done for legal, that they were paid like 1 hour or 2 hours. You know, it is designated. Now that he's called out, he's gonna get X, like 1 hour.
And that's the same thing here,
Comprehensive.
6.5 actually
Yeah.
spells that out.
And it's going in there, and
Number six says that.
that made it legal. And I think that we actually paid 2, but I can't remember. But I remember sitting in this debate
So
one
in
time
this,
before.
it does say 6.5 that call out an event, a minimum payment of 2 hours
Okay,
is reported for compensation.
that,
You know, he's gotta get out, he's gotta go.
that what I, back then, was, made it legal,
Okay, so,
because he was being compensated.
yes.
And in response to Stephen, I mean, we don't have a problem, we can approve this with the
Yeah.
caveat that we eliminate that parenthesis.
Yeah, I think
statement.
I think, so I would.
So if you make a
I would-
motion with
I would
those-
motion that we adopt resolution number 2020-003, with adding a period on 6.4, adding a period after employee, and striking the parentheses statement.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt resolution 2020-003, employee handbook amendment, call out, call on call with amendment. Questions on the motion? Not all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, resolution is passed. So, here we go. We're gonna hear from the police chief here now. A memorandum of understanding between the city of Cle and the Teamsters local. So, Kirk, you wanna run us through that one?
So a few months ago, I came to you with an idea to help attract lateral police officers here by giving lateral officers certain incentives. Those incentives were that their longevity from their previous employment would apply once they pass probation for the Cle Elum Police Department. That way, for an example, the latest person we hired has 10+ years on. We do have a longevity program. So once David will be past his probationary period, he would be eligible for the 10-year longevity bonus that we have in our contract. In addition to that, I suggested to council that we take 40 hours of vacation and 40 hours of sick leave in advance. So when he comes here and starts, those hours are on the books. That was all part of the package that we talked about. And I know I already presented this and you already voted on it. However, when it went to the union guy for the memorandum of understanding to be drafted between the union and the city, the sick leave vacation portion, according to him, isn't a union issue. Therefore, he didn't address that. So when the memorandum of understanding came to us and we signed it, that portion that talked about advancing the 40 hours of sick leave and 40 hours of vacation wasn't on that paperwork. And Robin caught that. So the city has now drafted a memorandum of understanding that addresses the 40 hours of sick leave and the 40 hours of vacation that's being advanced towards the lateral officers upon hire. So what I'm asking is, and I know you already passed this 3 months ago, but now it's on paper that specifically talks about those hours. So I'm asking that that be signed.
How long is the traditional probation period?
12 months.
So we're giving them 80 hours at time of hire.
You're not giving them
Well, no.
anything, it's hours they're already gonna earn. We're advancing that.
Okay,
So until they would have been here long enough to have actually earn those, because they earn so many a month, they will earn 0 until they get to the 40-hour mark, then they would start accruing beyond that point.
Plus, they'll be able to use it within the year too.
That's the whole purpose behind it.
Yeah, it doesn't cost the city anything.
Not a dime. And like I said a few months ago, when I came in here over a decade ago, I left over 800 hours of sick leave with the city of Ellensburg. My son was still young, so that was a little unnerving that I'm starting somewhere else
Yeah.
with 0 on the books, and just crossing your fingers that would hit me.
It's an awkward thing to make a mid-career change from one organization to another. And sensible things that enable it are in the city's interest. So I make a motion that we adopt or authorize the mayor to sign this memorandum of understanding between the city and the local union number 760, representing Cle Elum Police Department, regarding the advance leave. So,
Thank you. A second.
Move and second to authorize the mayor to sign the memorandum of understanding between the city of Cle Elum and Teamsters Local 760, representing, the city police department. Questions on the motion? None, all in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's passed. So now, Rob, we're about Robin's tax credit incentive program?
It's Robin's.
He's
It's
not
really
here,
not
you gotta
Robin's.
talk for her.
Yeah, so basically what I need from council here is a little discussion and then a recommendation on the amount, or if any, of tax credits. So how it works is that we can pledge a certain amount to the downtown association, our downtown association, and let's say we pledge, I don't know, what did we do last year or the year before, 10,000 or 15,000? 15,000, and then basically the following year we get 75% of that back. Now you're thinking, well, then where's the 25% go? Well, we sort of get that back in grants that they may have. I mean, we've got it back in 2019 for sure, because they gave us 2 grants for the beautification of the city hall. Other programs that they may do around the city, which is all, helpful for the city. So like I said, last time we pledged 15,000. I mean, I guess if I'd recommend somewhere around there, or 15, 20,000. We are technically spending 25% of that, in advance. So that's why I need your approval.
So one of the things I'd like to say about this, that even though, they did give us like $10,000 for already the 1.09 money that we got, they did again for the second one. And what that is, even though it's a small amount of money, it's a partnership. When you apply for the grant, if you have other organizations contributing money to it, you get more points. And it has helped us get those 2 grants. We just got the $450,000 from that too. So, go ahead.
so one understanding to have is that there is a cap, that when you add up all the other businesses, and it is a popular thing to do among our other businesses. So it's definitely something that I want to do as a city, because we certainly want to show that, our support. At the same time, I don't want to do an inflated figure that would preclude other businesses from being able to also do that same type of contribution. And every year that cap has been met in the last several years. And so I think the 10,000 is much more prudent amount than, raising that amount and then precluding other businesses from being able to have a part in it. Because literally, if we wanted to, we could do a huge amount and blow it. And if we got our app in before other people, then we're going to be able to get it before other people. But I do think it's important to do it to show our support of the Downtown Association. So I would recommend the response to this being that we authorize the application with the amount of $10,000 is my recommendation. And I would seek a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded to,
Why does it blow everybody else out?
Well, it's not that it blows everybody out, but there's a cap.
Okay,
Meaning
so-
they only let the first, however, is it?
$95,000.
$95,000. So if there's 10 businesses that all want to give 10,000 and get, they want to get that 75% back, then we could be taking the line of another person. And I know there's other heavy contributors into this in the city that I don't want to.
But let me add another little aspect to that. We're allocated, they divided up how many downtown associations there are, and each one can get this. And then, and so they watch that, okay? And then, but then, if there's like a second
round.
A second round. And the second round is really competitive, and it's one of those things where you gotta have your finger on the button at 12:01 past midday on a certain date. And so having people with the ability to shoot that extra money out there is where this especially comes in handy. See, because they'll wait and see, because we'll be at the end of the list, as far as developing. You know what I mean? The city has the opportunity to collect that 95 with all, and there is no like competition. We just have to talk to people and get them to do what they want. Yeah.
Well, we're not the agents of the
No,
downtown
we don't do it.
association.
The downtown association
Yeah.
does it,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm
They
just-
contacted us.
Right, I'm just saying is that they always have well within their boundaries
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
people are rejected. And, being as it is a particularly tighter year from a budget perspective, not going all outlandish, but showing
sure. Okay.
a substantial amount that shows we definitely want to express support to the downtown
Yeah, okay.
association.
All right, so that's
Yeah.
part of the discussion. So it has been moved and seconded, right? All right. Any other questions on the motion?
Great idea.
Okay, if there is none, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the 2020 tax authorization is approved. Okay, now, look at this, I'm on the name here. We're not ready to do this, REIT 2. What I wanted to explain to the council is, we already get what's called REIT 1, okay? And it has, and what that is, it's a certain percentage, very small amount, that off of the sale of property, and it goes to a fund. And it has limitations, and it says what we can and can't do with it. Well, there is also another one called REIT 2. Now, REIT 2, we can't just authorize to do it. It eventually has to go before the public can be voted in. And again, it's, I forget where the percentage, just like another 25 point REIT 1, where REIT 2, we want REIT 2, we already did REIT 2, yeah, okay.
A
second quarter percent. It does add up. And so this is something I probably really should have just talked about, something that we have to do. We don't exactly want to put it on the ballot to compete with the fire department, I wanted to bring that up, that is something, an action that we could do. And the idea behind it for this money was that as we renovate First Street, one of the things it's gonna need extra care. There's gonna be leaves that gotta be picked up, the maintenance and upkeep of that so it looks really good. We could use this funding for that Main Street. That was kind of the thinking behind it. And when and how we pull it off, I'm not sure. And this is just a discussion, I'm bringing it up so you know. Because it's great for us, we're getting the money to redo First Street, right? And then, there's extra stuff, there's lights and there's planters and there's, trees and all those things take care. And so if we had, a little bit of extra funding to just take care of that. Maintenance and upkeep is sort of the thinking behind it. So that's, just kind of bring that up.
But the reason why we're discussing it is, the way this works is that we have a proposition, but the council has to approve the proposition before it goes to the voters, so we want to know your feedback, I guess.
Well, I guess, but we would have to give you some stuff, whether you would approve it. Go ahead.
Yeah, my feedback would be that the amount of property that's going to be changing hands is going to increase the amount of REIT coming into the city. And so exponentially inflating it with another 1/4%, while it seems small, still another quarter, still another 1/4%, and I would be opposed to seeking a REIT 2 or.
So the REIT 2 goes on the sale of property, it doesn't come off of anybody's,
Right, I understand, and at the same time, if I decide, I would say for me personally and for my constituents, if we decide that we want to sell property that we have owned for, some people for generations, and now we're gonna have another 1/4% sales tax. It is a sales tax of sorts.
oh, it's not
and-
sale, well, okay, yes, it is.
And so and I would say I stand in opposition to it, because I think the amount of, we are gonna need it as going forward. But simply real estate changing hands is gonna generate REIT, and sticking it to people that are selling it. I think we all think this is gonna affect rich people selling big properties or big portions of land, but I think it also does, to a degree, affect, the little guys that are selling their houses and their lands.
Mickey, you were gonna make a comment?
Does it only go on resale property or initial sale?
Resale, any sale of.
It's any sale of property.
Any sale of.
Yeah,
This handout is,
you gotta think when latitude 49, whatever it is up here, is
Yeah.
going in, when it goes in there, there's gonna be a lot of cleaning going on. And each one, cleaning on the streets when that goes in there. It's gonna be a big maintenance job, And when that goes in, each lot that sells up there, and each house when it closes, is gonna put in towards this fund, which is going to help us out immensely.
Okay, so.
The future people are gonna start paying for cleaning their streets and their sidewalks and their sewers and things like that. So it's not the present people that are really gonna be paying all of it.
I also read that you can use up to 100 grand to help with affordable housing from REIT 2, but not REIT 1. That's another thing we can talk about is affordable housing. So REIT 2 could generate some funds to help with affordable housing and homelessness.
So
I think
this
most-
is, so let's give everybody a chance to talk, go ahead, and he's making this, Ken, you have something
well,
to mention?
if you scroll down it gives every community in the state.
What page?
Oh,
Hold it up so they can see what he's talking about.
this thing. And if you just keep going, till you get there, it shows it shows which cities have done it, there we go, and which have not. Anyone where that rate says 0.25, they're like us, and anyone that says 0.5 has done REIT 2. And just a quick look, it's more of an urban thing. Basically, everybody in King County has done it.
Pierce County.
But Grant County, Mattawa, Moses Lake, Quincy, Royal City, Soap Lake, Warden, Wilson Creek, Cooley Dam
Kittitas.
have all done it. Whereas you get to Lincoln County, Elmira, Creston, Davenport, Harrington, Odessa, Reardon, Sprague, Wilbur have not done it.
Look at Grant.
So,
50/50 or so.
and no one in Kittitas.
No one in Kittitas
Anyway,
County.
Well, okay, so
Something-
this,
something to think
this is,
about.
there's something to think about, I'm bringing it up.
We
you know.
have to do it, and what you.
We have to?
We have, if it's gonna be done, we have to do it in the city of Cle Elum.
Yeah,
But we don't have to.
Have to do it. We don't have
We don't have to do it, but it won't happen unless the council votes it in.
Yeah.
I'll throw one other thing to consider. The homeless slash disproportionate unavailability of affordable housing is important. But like it was showing, average cities might raise $300,000 per year. That does not create sustainable affordable housing. What does is making policies that encourage the building of sustainable houses. It's shown over time. That's what creates affordable housing, is incentivizing slash creating policies and building codes, et cetera, that would promote, you know, the dual family housing, or the the unit, yeah, the multifamily dwellings, the other mixed use, the, you know, apartment complexes, et cetera. As much as some people may not desire it, those are affordable housing stores and ways, and they don't cost much comparatively. We just have to architect in time policies that encourage their growth.
No, I don't disagree. The REIT too, though, could pay for the planning of the affordable housing. That's where the money could be utilized, not necessarily to build affordable housing, but you can use it for planning and development of affordable housing, and even in acquisition, construction, reconstruction, repairs to current housing that's we call affordable, that needs update. We could use that money for it also.
So it's a potential funding source, and we don't have to, you know, decide it tonight, you know, but I will bring it back up.
But to clarify, even if we passed it, the
We
voters still have to
vote.
fully approve
The
it.
voters have to approve it, that's for sure. So,
Giving the voters the option's not a bad idea either.
yeah. So we're gonna think about how to proceed with this. I mean, I hear your objections, you know.
And I don't think we should increase the tax unless we have something definite.
To use it for.
Yeah.
It's for, you know, not just for willy-nilly, you know, we have a specific purpose. That's the idea. Okay, all right. Well, I didn't mean to get blood pressure up.
You're welcome. Doing the job.
Okay, so, but we're here to discuss things, right? All right, ordinance 1579, amending the day of the week council meetings are held from Tuesday to Monday. There's the ordinance. All right, I'll open it up to you guys.
I just had a question for staff on this. If we made it effective 5 days from today, does that mean our next meeting would actually be Monday, the 27th? Or do we have to wait?
It's the first meeting in February. I think is the way we're
It could be, but it would be up to you if you wanted to start it.
I think everybody wants it to start as soon as they can.
Well, I'd like to go to EWC Legislative Days in Olympia, and I would have to miss it because our meeting's on Tuesday. If we moved to Monday, I could go to that. So
Yeah.
I would be fine in making it effective immediately.
So it's as written, it would be in full force 5 days from the date of publication, and so I would move that we approve ordinance.
And we can have
We talked about this for 6 months, and if you miss a meeting, it's cool.
So-
Anybody can miss a meeting if they need to.
All right, he's making a motion. We'll still have a conversation.
But yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I would move that we adopt it and that it take full force in 5 days as per the ordinance.
Okay, so is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to adopt ordinance, wow, there's another one, 1579, okay? I got it right. Now, questions? Ken, go ahead.
First question, why?
Because we've been talking about it, and we've been saying we are gonna change it at the first of the year. We've already delayed it.
No, that's not why.
Is it
That's
one
not
of
why.
Oh,
one of
you
the
mean why?
reasons to allow?
Sorry, are you talking?
Okay,
Sorry.
let me say administratively, I'll answer that. Okay, first of all, it's a lot better for our, to get things published in the newspaper, you know, instead of that. In the office, the agenda is set on Thursday, it goes out Friday, and then you have Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, let's say we go in here Monday and get the work done, you know, so they can get on to the stuff. You've seen how much stuff trickles in, you know, oh, if we have to amend the agenda, we set it, let's get it done, take care of the business and move on. And it does help with Kathy especially with the newspaper, it's a lot easier. Like tonight, if there's something that she has to, she'll be up here late, getting things all off to the paper so it get published. You know, and also, now I'll say this, from the mayor's standpoint, aside from personal, we're working a lot with the other communities, especially with the police department. And oftentimes, it'd be very handy for me to be able to go with Kirk. Because the other communities, we can go to each other community's meetings this way. Otherwise, we're always at odds with that. Those are real important administrative reasons to do it. Now, personally, what you have or how it works for you guys, you can discuss that, you know.
Well, I appreciate, those are profound reasons.
Yes, and I was on the council when we changed it from Monday to Tuesday. It was in the old city hall, and Delilah Bannister and Tony wanted the extra day, right? Okay, we gave it to them. Well, now we have an administration that wants to get with it, okay?
And when we originally changed,
Yeah.
when we originally changed from 6 o'clock or from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock, there was robust discussion about changing it to Monday then, and the prevailing opinion of the council was, let's wait till the first of the year because people have made commitments until the first of the year.
It's hard to change.
One other thing it does for the first time is puts, like you said, not just a meeting, all three of the different cities now are at different times. You know, you got a 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and a Monday. And so we're all at different times, so our meetings can be, so if a county commissioner wanted to come, in theory, they could come to all three of the meetings much more easily. And it wouldn't be on the same day, but it would definitely be easier for them. And so, yeah, so I stand in support of my motion.
When were we thinking of putting it in effect on?
That he already mentioned.
Effective in 5 days, so our next meeting would be on Monday the 27th.
5 days after publishing, which is
Right.
Thursday.
Right.
Yeah.
5 days after Thursday.
Yeah, after Thursday, but it would be our next meeting would be the 27th.
And so Kathy's got to get it in the paper tonight.
Yeah.
Right, okay, see, there you go.
It's approved.
All right, but good discussion, go ahead, what do you have to say?
It frees up Taco Tuesday.
Important.
But also, does it run it, after we've made headways with the VFW in this last month and a half, and they have their meetings at 5 o'clock on Mondays in this building, and so they go till 6. Then that will bump right into them, so I don't know if they run late or not.
They meet on the first Monday of the month,
Okay,
and this is the second.
okay, perfect.
So Coal Mine Trail meets on the first Monday of the month, which I go to every month also, so it doesn't interfere with that.
Perfect.
And then when it seems like there is a holiday that we might have to dovetail with, isn't there?
I
That would be
know
in
one Monday holiday during the month.
Well, there's actually two.
Where's your calendar? You had a sheet with that.
Yeah,
It should be attached.
It's attached.
Memorial Day.
it's behind it.
It's Memorial.
12th of October.
There's Memorial Day and then Columbus Day is only, it's not everybody that does
Yeah, it's
that.
not a federal holiday.
We don't.
But,
Well, it is a federal.
What,
It's not a city.
what would we plan for those? Would we just meet anyway?
I would say that there's strong precedent not to have it on Memorial Day, and that we would simply maybe consider forgoing it or rescheduling it as we can. Always, if there's pressing business, we could reschedule.
So what we can do, and I have to tell you, there was a time, and it won't get that bad, where we had a council meeting every other week, and we had a study session, so we were here every day, every one day of the week. We can, as we realize, oh, okay, we really need to have a meeting, so we'll reschedule it.
Then we hired Mike Sika.
Yes, so, let's deal with those as they come up. And,
My schedule rotates constantly, so
Yeah.
I won't be here next week.
Well,
Next week.
And I like to mention that about, council, there are things, Beth's job sometimes requires her to be off doing something, but she's doing things for the community that's very important. And she has ears on the ground that a lot of us don't even know about.
And she's serving in committees that are other times too.
Yeah, so, if something comes up and you can't make it, it's okay. You tell everybody, let everyone know ahead of time and go do what you gotta do. There is a thing called life, just to throw that in the discussion, right? So, there was a motion?
Motion and second.
And second. Any other questions on the motion?
Well, just a comment, it will complicate some things for me, but I'll try.
Okay, all right. Appreciate it. All right, all those in favor of the aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Aye.
He's a good man. Well,
I have to be honest.
Standing on your principles, good job.
it's a reluctant eye, but it's an eye. Okay, all right. So then, now, we'll go down to committee reports, and the park committee is gonna make an update.
So, I'm sorry about this, because I know it's after 8, we've got a long agenda. I do.
Hey, but look, it's just only been 2 hours, okay?
Do have a
Don't really-
PowerPoint
Go ahead.
here that I will try not to make a PowerPoint often at the end of a meeting. So I'll try to get through this quickly. I have this to hand out to everybody. So Beth, feel free to chime in at any point if there's something good. So just want to give you an update on what the Parks and Rec Committee has been up to. We'll get to this sheet at the very end here, but what I'm going to talk mostly about is the dog park.
Can you first say who's on the Parks Committee?
Yes, right. So Parks Committee is myself, Beth Williams, and Megan Fliggy, right, who's married to Matt Fliggy, who's on our planning commission. And we have been working hard on a dog park. It's been talked about for years, as I understand it, and we have a piece of land right over here, right at the Oaks Turn there, next to kind of where Ron lived there, and we are looking to hopefully develop that into this fairly quickly, assuming we can find funding, because we're still in that phase. But we've got a plan, and we're excited to hopefully move forward, get some momentum, getting a project done. So if you want to, Lucy, if you want to advance the slide there. So that's the piece of property there that you see. Initially, our plan is not to fence and open the whole thing. We're going to open a small closest to the pond there, and then expand as we get funds and interest and all those kind of things. So we move on to the next slide. So this is the area we're talking about. It actually was Firewise recently. DNR sent their crew out in the snow, and they went through and Firewise, I haven't actually gone over and looked at it yet, but there was a big pile of stubble. You did go?
Yeah, I went over and the pile was large. And
Yeah.
they took out a lot. Mainly they're concerned with, trees that shouldn't be, naturally wouldn't, be in the area, particularly next to the pond. They had several hundred dug fir saplings that are next to the pond that are not riparian. They're not, and in the stands together, they said that if we left them there, that close of proximity, that density of trees would just kill each other off anyway, and then you'd just have a bunch of dead trees. So they're just kind of doing it ahead of time. And then they had, they dragged the trees up, kind of up to where you have parking, where you can access with the vehicle, and they actually rented a chipper. This was all at no cost to the city. They rented a chipper from Rent Me Rentals and brought it in the snow, and then they chipped the pile and distributed it down over the ledge, kind of where the park, where it could be more easily spread by equipment that might be brought in the spring.
So now we have potential ground covering for said dog park. So that we're reusing that stuff. So you can continue. Just more photos of the area there.
No snow. Yeah.
No snow, right. So this is our sort of preliminary design. So the red there is the city parking lot that we have over here. So that would be where folks would park. They would then need to walk down the sidewalk there, and then cut over towards the area. We've talked about potentially putting maybe some paw prints or something on the sidewalk to kind of guide people. In reality, I think people are going to cut over some of that railroad property there, and it may be advantageous for us to talk to the railroad and see about getting a lease for that portion of it, because it would certainly make the parking closer, and also, as people probably are going to walk through it, it might reduce some potential liability or something else there. And then
it would help with the park.
Yeah, certainly help with the parking. And then, so the green area there is the area that we would first be fencing and using as the park. And then the blue space obviously is the rest of the area.
That the city actually owns.
Yes, it's all, yeah, city owned. So I think there was was it just the pond, or was there a portion of the land that we also got from the county?
So the area between the eastern portion of the green square, we own over to where Ron Spear's house, to the very edge of that house. And we own probably 75–80% of that pond, except for just a little bit of that eastern shoreline of the pond and a tiny bit within it. So we have most of the right of way there. We were able to secure a donation of land from the county for a top portion that's underneath the horizontal lines there down into the pond. So we now have that shoreline. But again, the main thing is that we don't own the railroad. We don't lease the railroad right of way on the right side, on the correct side of the tracks for this. But we do have that parking area, and as long as we have indemnification
And
language on
signs on that,
signage, then if the public decides to take another route, we have done our due diligence to communicate.
The other thing you might check is Mountains of Sound Greenway, they may be, they liaison sometimes with and they can work out arrangements sometimes with the railroad.
There is Megan Lee, who's on the Parks Committee. She we were hoping she was here tonight, but she didn't have childcare. She is actually a professional parks developer. That's what she does for a living. She builds parks. And if anybody knows her husband, Matt, he builds skate parks for a national skate park company, and they met building parks. So she's really knows her stuff. And one of the things she pointed out to the committee was that BNSF can donate or provide easements for recreational resources such as this. So that's an angle that the city can use to maybe not pay for the land and to get at least a pedestrian easement through their property if we don't choose the lease route. Next one?
Yeah. So, preliminary design, so this is again, that green area that was there. So there'd be a vehicle gate there that would make it easy for Public Works to come and pick up the garbage that we collect and set out there, and also if there is other maintenance things we need to get in. And then the entrance there would be one of those, what they call kissing gates that essentially keeps it so the dogs don't get out as people come in and out. There's already sort of a natural sort of outer path there that's great for being able, people who just want to walk their dogs sort of around the track, as well as some trails in between trees there. So it's actually laid out pretty well. There's not a lot that needs to be done to sort of prepare the property. There's nice natural walkway areas. So phase one would be sort of the basics we need to do to get it going, which would be signage, garbage cans, getting water extended there in a frost-free hose bib there, so we can get water in there. Waste bag stations, and then some sort of storage shed to be able to house some of the materials we need for maintenance. The Lions Club has already said that they would be providing a lot of the maintenance crew, I guess, to do picking up after dogs, that people don't do that, and picking up litter and that kind of thing. So providing a lot of that ongoing service, because they've been a good partner in this. And then phase two, we'd be looking at sort of more beautification things, benches, restrooms, art, things like that.
I don't see fencing.
200 feet, 200 feet, 200 feet.
There will be,
Well, not in the phases.
yeah, so fencing would be that first part of it, and it's in the budget later on here.
We're not gonna fence it, we're just gonna let
Yeah, we're just gonna let it go,
I
yeah.
hope they're trained.
Yeah.
They have these electric things.
They get an
that
electric
shock the
collar
dogs
every
down.
time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, they rent a little collar.
Put a collar on the dog,
Exactly.
go in the dog park, and they'll stay there.
Continue on, so, that bottom left-hand picture there, that's the kind of fencing that we're looking at. It looks a little more natural, less sort of prison yard chain link fence kind of thing. And then looking at potentially later on doing a drinking fountain more like that, that's a little more interesting, gives humans and dogs the ability to easily get water. Continue on. So, phase one, so we're looking at, you know, the site prep work. So the firewising's already done. A site survey is something we need to do to make sure that we get the fencing all in the right place and that we have the accurate area there. Grading and the environmental stuff that will need to be done. Whoa.
I'm gonna, if I exit out and I zoom in on that, we might be able to see it better. So keep talking.
Okay. And then in the initial part, so we talked about some of the things, we're looking at essentially needing, scroll down, I guess. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head.
Whoa, sorry, I didn't mean that. Lucy, just don't go with your instinct.
I know. So essentially that's what we're looking at for cost for the project. The fencing is the very, very large cost in that. And so we're looking at, you know, we don't have funding yet, we're looking at funding sources. One of the things that we think we can get is probably doing some crowdfunding from the community.
800
Well,
feet,
I saw
800 feet.
volunteers listed there too, and that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It can really
800
make a
feet of
Yeah.
fencing is 43,000.
Pig wire and wood.
That's
Sorry?
expensive.
800 feet of pig wire and wood is 43 grand.
So we had, we had several quotes. We had, we went, well,
You have to put it
we
in.
went to M2 in Ellensburg, which is like the main,
They have a DOT contract, right? Like they do. Yeah.
folks in the area. And that quote was for, and this is for 1 acre square. It was for cyclone fencing, your standard silver cyclone fence. And it was $42,000. That includes half for equipment and supplies and half for installation. And then we went through Merle Inc. and we asked them to do one for that Suncadia fencing that Matthew pointed out in the previous slide, which is definitely a much better experience when you're out there. And it was $43,000, so it's a wash. So why wouldn't you go with the one that's more aesthetically pleasing? You know,
for sure.
so it was the same. Now, if there is an opportunity for volunteer fence
Yeah.
installation, 200 feet per side, we know that the crew could trench in anything, you know, if we needed to dig down a little bit, but we're not volunteering in this budget. The Parks Committee is not volunteering or voluntelling the Public Works Department to install an acre of fencing. They wanted to show the true cost here, but they did show matched funding as much as possible. You can see city match and the values. So when you look at the amount that's needed for the project, it is, that we showed the amount needed versus the amount, the total amount. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time just kind of scrolling a tiny bit on this page. But you can see like the city match, also the state match of the DNR firewising, all of that. What we put in there was that the matches are here is a total of a little over $10,000. We don't know about volunteer time match, but that's usually calculated at $15 per hour. And then a project subtotal with a 10% contingency just in case brings you to a little over $56,000. It would be $66,000 if we added in all the match money, right? The reason why that's all important is if we went out for grants, they want to see the lowest, they want to see that percentage, they want to see a high local match, high investment from the city, in other words, and a lower amount that they would pay from the total, if that makes sense. So it's important to put that in there.
Yeah.
And you know, the budget could be a lot higher if we went, if everything was in there all at once.
So we have a little bit of money that was raised from the Lions Club from their 5K they did and their dog event they did in the park. And then we've talked about actually going out and doing some crowdfunding from the community because I think there's definitely interest in having this here. And so we think that we could potentially go out and raise at least a portion of it from not only community, but some of the sort of affiliated organizations, vets and other things, and so this is what we're looking for, at least for sort of phase one.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out that an important part of the Parks Committee subset for this dog park is Jackie
Yeah.
Van Dongen. She started working with Carrie Farnham, our former employee, on the dog park in, I want to say 2015. There's articles, if you look it up online, of them out there kind of promoting this and working with community members on the dog park. And so, and then also the middle school, the Walter Storm
Oh, yeah.
Middle School STEM class. We, the committee has been coordinating with Steve Costello's STEM class of, you know, I think they're mostly 7th graders, and they're going to be collaborating on the next part. Well, you can't see that either, but
Yeah.
you wanna just,
Art stuff.
Yeah.
yeah,
And overall, we think
Creative.
this is, huh?
the creative aspect,
Yeah.
that would be where they.
Overall, we think this is going to be I would say a tourism draw. I think there's plenty of people that drive with their dogs back over the mountain and need a place to stop before they sit in traffic on Sunday afternoons in the summer, and we think this could be a good place that they can stop off and.
We should hit up our
Lodging tax advisory.
That's definitely on the list of potential funding sources, because we think that we could make an argument that, and one of the things we actually talked about including in the budget was like a trail counter or something, so we can actually do a count of people to come in and out of the park there, so we can be able to do that. But yeah, definitely, it seems like there's a tourism argument to be made here. So you can see that that's phase 2 and phase 3 would be, again, those sort of beautification things we talked about, and ultimately phase 3 would be expanding it out and potentially expanding the fencing and making the park bigger if it is heavily used, and we see an interest there. And then last thing is this sheet that I passed around. So one of the things we're trying to do is kind of get all of the Parks and Rec projects we have going in one place with as much info as possible, so that we can keep this updated and continue to provide this to council, so that everyone's kind of up to date on all the different projects we have going on. So I won't really go over this other than to say, kind of look at what we got going on there. There's some of them that are certainly farther along in the process, and some that are really out there, like, you know, Y Park and Flagpole Park we haven't really done anything on. But one of the things we're really looking to do is we found the subcommittee model has helped really well with the dog park, and so one of the things we'll be looking to do is, like for Y Park, engaging folks who want to focus specifically on that, not just people on the committee, but also you know, folks like Mike who have an interest in Y Park to help you know, work on those specific projects. So that's what I got.
Thank you. Good work. Good work. Thanks for the energy, and really appreciate all the people, and the volunteer efforts really make a difference.
100%.
Can I make the motion we adjourn?
I do believe you could make that motion.
I make the motion we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay. You can stay if you want. Okay. Oh, and I was gonna mention to see, you know, I know it does seem like it's late, but